I would like to explain what's going on in Chapter 18 of the text, where the discussion of labor and capital are held. Uh, let's say that we are in the executive suite here of a business and we are the managers running the show and we are managing these resources, money, material, method, manpower, and machines. We manage them in the most effective way we can to get the good results for our customer, which is a good quality product or service at a good price and on time. So that's the essence of what we're working for here, is to get up into that executive suite so we can make these decisions. All right, now in the text they talk about the apple picker business, and it brings up the important point of the value of marginal product of labor. Well, what they show then is that if a firm has 0 laborers, then they will have 0 marginal product of labor. That's pretty easy to understand. If they hire that first apple picker, he'll pick 100 bushels of apple in a day. And so the difference between what he's picking for what was previously picked is 100. Here the difference is between 180 and 80 is 80. This is the value, this is the marginal product. When I multiply the marginal product times the price of the apples, which was $10 a bushel, I get $1,000. That is the value of the marginal product of labor. Getting this increase of 80 bushels when I went from 1 worker to 2 workers was worth $800 to me. That was the value of the marginal product of labor. And you carry that example all the way down. Now notice how the marginal product decreases each time I add a worker. I get a little bit less of an increase in output, and that's because of the law of diminishing returns. So the next concept, though, is this, and this is important. The value of the marginal product of labor is the demand curve for a business. The more money I get for the business by hiring another worker, the more I'm going to be excited about hiring another worker. So my demand is going to be related to, it's going to be driven by how much I get in revenue from a new employee. So that becomes my demand curve and my appetite for hiring more employees. What drives this? What drives the demand for hiring workers? It is the output price. So if I get a lot of money for my output, I am going to have a high demand for workers. I want to keep that money flowing in. I'm going to be in the labor market actively trying to hire people and keep a certain employment level to get that revenue maximized. Okay? Technological changes. Also, if I have a productivity increase, if I am able to buy a piece of equipment that makes the person that works for me more productive, that increases my value of the marginal product of labor, and my demand for more people increases. Anything that impacts the value of the marginal product of labor will impact the demand for labor. And then there's a supply of other factors, and one of the things they talked about was difficulty in getting enough ladders. If you don't have enough ladders for everybody, then you're going to have more people doing it from the ground, and that's not as effective as going up in the ladder. And so you'll have less of a demand. So having the proper amount of equipment also affects your value of marginal product of labor. So what about the labor supply? Well, the labor supply is really directly related to the workforce participation rate. There are only so many people in the country that want to go to work. They want to work. Some of them are working, and some of them, unfortunately, are not working. They want to, but they can't find a job. But anyway, the workforce participation rate determines what the supply of labor is. The equilibrium wage, then, is going to be this average demand of all the firms in the country looking for workers, intersecting with the number of workers that are wanting to work. And you'll end up with an equilibrium wage for workers. Okay? Now, how does the capital get involved in this? Well, interest rates are the price of capital. In other words, in the text they describe the rental price of capital. Well, the rental price of capital is the interest rate. So when the interest rates are low, it's going to be easier for me to go borrow money to buy some labor-saving equipment, some productivity improvement type equipment. And when that happens, my value of marginal product of labor increases, and so my demand for labor will increase. So when interest rates would go down, the demand for labor would go up here. So it's an indirect effect of it. Okay? So that's kind of how the two work. Uh, I'm not saying that lower interest rates will lead immediately to a sudden surge in employment because there are a lot of other factors. There is the demand for the products. When people stop buying product because they're nervous about the future, when they withdraw their spending, it reduces the demand for products, which then diminishes the demand for labor. I don't need as many people when I don't have my product being sold at the same rate. So there are a lot of things at play. But in general, the point being made in the text is that the value, the marginal product of labor is what drives a firm to want to go hire workers. And the workforce participation rate is what drives workers to want to go work. And there are things that can make that change, shift up and out, and one of those is the interest rate for borrowing money, because that will cause a direct impact on value of marginal product of labor. So I hope this was clarified, and you can always come to the forum. We can talk about this.